All right, hello everybody, and welcome back. It's time to look again at the 3D print and overview for the month of November 2024. It is Monday, November the 11th, Veterans Day here in the States, for any of you that aren't aware of that. And let's get into it. So first off, I want to give a shout out to Archvillain Games in that they are doing a 5-year anniversary sale, which is open, I think, to everybody. At least I was able to look at their discount code, so there's that. So just thought you should be aware of that in case you were interested. Next up, we have BattleYak Miniatures. Now, they've released a more proper release of their month, showing more renders of everything that we're looking at here, along with a couple of miniatures we didn't see before, so I thought it was worth taking the time to look at this. So this is the Archvillain True Breeds. And these come in several different sculpts, but these are also modular as well, so you can put them together in whatever way you wish to do so, multiple heads and so on. Then we have the Underbrewed Skitterlings, which are, a little more primitive, and these also are modular as well. You can put these together in a few different ways. Then we have the Archvillain Infiltrators, and these are also infiltrators that have hooded variants as well. And these come with multiple heads that can be used depending on how you want them to look, and weapons as well. This is the Hybrid Behemoth, and then the Hybrid Skin Weaver, which I don't think we have seen so far. So this is a new miniature for me, at least. So we are seeing this now for the first time, and lots of bases with webbing and little miniature spiders as well. So here is, again, their November Battle Pack from BattleYak Miniatures, the Archvillain Underbrewed. Claymore Miniatures is new to my videos. Not new, of course. They have released Roswald's Bestiary of the Unknown. So we have Roswald the Scholar and Meredith Astra. Valeria Knight's Melody. I guess that means she's a bard. Or maybe the lyre in her hand. I guess that's a lyre. Sockeye Shipwrecker is a huge miniature. I like the fact they put the size there to kind of give you an idea for how big you should print these. Here's a Candle Golem for large, and a Feloraptor large. Looks kind of like a hippogriff that has no wings. Then we have a Balker Beast. I'm not exactly sure. I've always seen things similar to that as a Lamassu. I'm not sure of those. And then this is a Gooseberus. Is that a 3-headed goose? Who created such a monstrosity? And here we have Erenes, Hell's Revenge, and the Great Abashi. Abashai? Abashi. We have a Forgotten Demigoddess of the Moon, and a Giant Acid Cave Ant. As if Giant Ant wasn't scary enough alone. We have a Coven Horror and a Displacer Kitten. You can't tell him no, could you? Daybreak Miniatures has released more renders of their release this month, which was the Castle Primitus. I really like this piece. I've actually saved it to my wallpaper folder. So we have the strong backs of Castle Primitus, and we can see more renders than what we saw originally. So let's take a look at what we have here. Obviously, many of these are inspired by gorillas or orangutans or just chimpanzees in general, and probably some other primates as well. There are also a couple of busts. Again, I really like both this dwarf and this elf. I think they're very nice miniature busts. Very quickly from Dragon Trapper's Lodge, they have released that they are releasing a Kickstarter pretty soon, Draconic Legends the Archdrake, which you can sign up to be notified about now, so just to be aware of. Next up, we have Dragon's Lake Miniatures, new to my videos. I think I've heard of them before. I've never really looked into them, and I should have been following more closely. But I like to add stuff along. So here's the November pack, which seems to be a set of infernal or abyssal dwarves, depending on what your lore wants to say. They also have released some Halloween things, which it seems to appear to include some little pumpkins on the end of that roller. Let's look at that a little bit better. And a texture roller so that you can roll out some roads. I like the fact that they put these pumpkins at the end. It's a very neat use. Here we have a pumpkin monster, and I wouldn't know what else to call it either. And some various terrain. Notice that the ghost is a front and a back so that he can go through the wall. And then we have, so they call it the Infernal Dwarves, and so this is a rocket battery, a Kadam chariot, Disciples of Luger. This is the command group. I believe that's what CG stands for. And these are the Disciples of Luger, so the rank and file troops that go along with these infernal dwarves. And more of the same. And then they have a leader, I believe, a Turok Commissioner as well. So we'll be watching Dragon's Lake a little bit closer. Ghamak has released some more renders of this month. They are doing some dwarves, and we see the chariot here. Notice it comes with either a rectangular or an elliptical base, depending on which you prefer. And here's just some detail views of the rams that are pulling the chariot, as well as the riders of the chariot as well. On their Instagram, they also posted this as a release image for the entire month. So we'll probably come back and look at a little bit closer renders of some of those, but just to give you an idea of the range that you get with Ghamak every month. Highlands Miniatures has released better renders and some prints of their miniatures, which is the Aegean Elves this month. So here we see some rank and file pole arms, some swordsmen. Apologies, I did not look up the specific names of all of these. We have a chariot and some wizards, mages, sorcerers, spell weavers. So many names we could use for these. Last Sword Miniatures, just a quick shout out, is doing some Black Friday sales. I suppose we need to kind of be watching for this and compiling some of these as these come about in the month. But they don't apparently normally do very many Black Friday sales or discounts in general. So if you want to check them out, this is the time to do it. So they'll be doing there until the 5th of December. Free Dwarf Wizard for all orders over 50 euros until the 5th of December as well. So worth checking out if you have any interest in any of their miniatures. Moonlight Minis by Christine Van Patten have released. Apparently she was a little late in getting this out as she had COVID. I hope she's feeling better. But we have some deer folk here. Very impressive minis, and I'm really impressed with the rendering of this as well. And I apologize for cutting off the names of those first two. I'm not sure what I was thinking. One Page Rules has released a more renders of what their releases will be for this month, and I think we're pretty much done with showing new renders of this month. We'll start looking at previews for December pretty soon. So of course the big release for November is the Giant Otter. We'll come back to that in just a minute. First off, we have a Human Monk for the Age of Fantasy. So they usually release about one little mini a month for their fantasy quest. Again, as I said, the legendary release for this month is the giant otter for the rat folk. And there's a lot of detail to this guy. Very detailed. If you look at the picture on the right, you can see like the saddle stitching, the buckles, and the straps that are used for this otter, who seems pretty happy to be able to help out the rat folk. We also are seeing more of the wood elves. It took me a minute to notice, but if you notice, the two differences between these two renders are the faces. The faces can vary a little bit. And then we have some giant owls that can work alongside them. The Printing Goes Ever On has released a lot more about its RPG tier, Tides of Terror, this month. It includes, I think, a full D&D module, maybe miniature campaign. I think that word doesn't mean exactly what it used to. I saw some people playing D&D a while back, and they seem to think every session was a campaign, and I'm like, I don't think that's how it works, but whatever. But here's what we see for the overall view, and if you have any interest in like an aquatic-based theme, this is a great month to check out their RPG tier. I was hoping to see some renders of the interior of the galleon, but unfortunately I don't see any yet. Let's look specifically at some of the miniatures. We have a dragon turtle, and sculpted bases. We have a mind flayer pirate, Dave Txarli, and some Sahagins. I'm never good at pronouncing that word, but I have a friend that really enjoys those. We have a married sorceress, Hina, and we have a pirate crew. We'll come back and look at them in just a little bit more detail even than that. We have a merfolk cleric, priestess Alani, and a sharkfolk barbarian, Swim Shady. Will the real Swim Shadies please stand up? We have an Aboleth, which I remember from the old Forgotten Realms 2nd edition campaign box. An Aboleth was part of the critters of that campaign, and an ancient sea serpent. I can't tell from this angle if it's one miniature or two. Usually miniatures like that have several bases. It'd be cool if they had a third one that you could just print off multiples of those to make it as big or as small as you wanted. We have a Chul, and there's Captain Jake Swallow. He seems familiar. He's looking for a jar of dirt or his rum. We have a giant seahorse mount. Notice it has a saddle, and there's just another picture of the galleon. Again, I'd like to see some interiors of this Print Goes Ever On. Notice the giant seahorse mount can come with a version that does not have a saddle as well. Here we have a Kinku sailor, Koyana. It's a different hand. We have a Plesiosaurus, as well as a Kraken. Printing Goes Ever On also releases life-size props and has done a few Kickstarters of those, so here's a few that go along with this month. An Amulet of Ocean's Grace and an Aqualabium. Looking at those two pirates, we can see Model B and Model A. They tend to look a little familiar to me too. Perhaps before we fought, if they'd be interested in a parlay. We have a dire shark and a Triton fighter, Captain Makoa. We have some underwater scatter terrain, and finally, that seems to be the end of the wave. Skullforge Studios, as I was looking through their release, seems to have a fantasy release or two. So let's put those in right here. So these seem to be various villagers, maybe mob people. You see the torch there. You see some flintlock, but this seems to be more, I would say, colonial with the tricorn hat there. But if you're familiar with the show Dimension 20, apparently that is one of their clients that Skullforge works with, and so they are releasing these miniatures from before. I believe these are fantasy miniatures. The guy on the right makes me wonder, but these look fantasy, and as well as this creation right here. Yeah. STL Miniatures has released some concept art for the Shadow Stalkers. They have a set of loyalty miniatures that if you subscribe to them, I think for at least a year, you get access to what they call Never Dawn, which is their intention of their own game system eventually. And so this will be one warband for that, which is the Shadow Stalkers. So right now we're just looking at concept art. Does that crow have a third eye? It's quite the contraption on its right hand there. To no one's surprise, I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Txarli Factory, Txarli Factory, something like that. Their release seems to be fantasy based. I think it could be. I think you could put it either way. But there's pretty much the release for this month. They also have released this pretty iconic miniature as well. But they seem to focus more on terrain. So I guess this is a skeleton for scale. Maybe a skeleton. Sorry, terrible pun. Notice the tower is modular, so you know even without the top piece, it's still a nice looking piece. And then just a few more angles of that iconic castle. It doesn't seem to be very thick, does it? But I suppose you wouldn't want to print it to scale. This does seem to be cut in a few different ways depending on the size of your printer, is what I'm assuming from these renders. Vae Victis Minis is releasing several humans and fish and rats this month. Rat giant seems to be the big theme, but we do have these human brutes, if I remember correctly, from the previous videos where we've seen the previews of these characters. But there's also these fish critters. That's kind of weird. It's a fish man eating a fish, which is eating a fish. A lot going on there. Here we see some giant rat giants, and I believe these are intended as like mercenaries of sorts. And you can see the rat giant over there on the right, and yeah, these guys have been mutated and changed around quite a bit. And then we have the fish guard, which just a little bit better imaging of right there. One of my viewers commented that it's designed instead for, I was thinking it was designed for Slay the Spire, but he said it was intended instead from like old medieval texts, which makes sense. I remember seeing this in the illuminated text that we see from the medieval period. And these rat giants are modular, so this is part of the warband. You can make these however you want, in as mutated or not as you would like. And then for Vae Victis, we do have the kind of pinup models, and we also seem to have a male rat giant, which we often don't see a male version in the Vae Victis. Not that I'm complaining, but Wargames Atlantic is released a few minis. So here we have Marcus Cassinius Latinius Postumus from the Decline and Fall Imperial Roman War. He can lose his head. I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere. These are Florentine infantry, modular, however you want to put them together for the Renaissance. Gunpowder like this. Yeah, so we're getting into imperial conquests of the battles in the Age of Empires. These are Italians at Adwa. So yeah, we're kind of getting into, is this sci-fi? Is this fantasy? Yeah, you know, they have guns, but it's gunpowder, and gunpowder, yeah, we get into weird areas there. Medieval training yard from the Age of Chivalry. White Werewolf Tavern has released some renders of their release for November, which is a Frigid Hope. You can see pretty much everything in one big go here. So on the left here, we have Valkor the Storm. That's not Valkor. I don't know where I got that from. I think that's... ignore that. But that is Azramor the Frost Reaver on the right. Valkor the Stormbreaker is there on the left. So the guy with the big axe that looks kind of like a clean-kept Santa Claus in my opinion. But we have the Ice Witch over on the right. My notes are messed up. That's where I'm messing up, sorry. Chrysalith Guardians, a set of 6 on the left, and then Winter Beasts, a set of 6 over on the right. Then we have Tuskclaw Hunters. There's 6 of them altogether, and a couple of busts. We have Valkor the Stormbreaker, and then Kalia the Witch of the Frozen Vale that we see over on the right. So that kind of finishes it up for us. We have finished looking over everything here. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy the bonus videos you'll be seeing on my channel, and if not, I'll be back pretty soon to look at some more releases for this month. That was quite a bit, actually. I'll see you soon.